It's your girl Nerese, and we back again with more work to do. Um, and yeah, okay, I realized I didn't edit the title. Let's try that again. Um, Business cards and QR codes, part two. All right, this time I'm not going to be on here as long as I was before because I don't have time. So, um, So yeah, as you can see, I added a little something to my makeup look today, and I actually kind of like fucked it up a little bit, but then I just went with it, and it's kind of like what happened. Well, no, that's not what happened with this. Um, I just no, I think that is what happened with it. And either way, so like I was doing my mascara, and then I kind of like got the corner of like the dot over here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I fucked my shit up. I was like, you know what, I actually kind of like how this looks, so let me just put it on the other side and see the vibes. And so whatever, if you see the girl start doing it, I did it first, per usual. um but I mean, I know it's not exclusive to me. I know there's probably more intricate makeup artists that's done something similar, but these hoes like to echo what I do. So it is what it is. Hopefully they echo some swag. Anyway, so um so yeah, I got um the business cards, the design is finished, right? So that got finished. And then actually the QR code was finished last night too. But because it's a dynamic design, at some point I'm gonna have to pay for it. And my thing is, as an independent artist and businesswoman, running my own label and trying to build this thing straight out the mud, brick by brick, you know, um, I'm trying to keep my expenses as low as possible. It's not like I want to cheat the system. It's just like if there's something that I could do for free that's going to help elevate the business, and then I can alleviate my finances towards other expenses that I know I have to pay for, like my website, then fine, I'll do that. But I'm like, look, I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet for that one. Um, just because like I feel like it's valuable for me to have the QR code, especially on the business cards. And you know, because there's gonna be different style business cards on there, like the links are important. It's like the social media and everything that's on there. And I mean, I don't want to get a temporary code and then like get the cards and then say somebody try to scan it and it doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's like it defeats the purpose. So with that said, I'm just gonna have to you know pay for that. But I mean, again, like I said before, if I'm paying for something, it's gonna be to my benefit, which everything always is. um but um but yeah, I'm gonna do it in a way that I like. I've been meaning to do this for New Mike Entertainment for a while anyway. Um, but basically, like I'll just run down the play. Um, just because, like as a creative, I'm not saying I have all the answers and I know all the 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 tips and tricks and all of that stuff. Like I'm still very much building this thing, but I do feel like I am fairly skilled at quite a few things in terms of like my designing. Like everything I put together for the flash drive, I'm very proud of that, from the photos to the visual, the creative direction for the Divine Merch campaign, like even designing the books in the document pages and stuff like that. So I know like that's a strength. A strength of mine is like the creative side of things, but then knowing how to tie in the business of like having all my business links and social media along with the creative. So it's appeasing to the eye, but it's also like me being intentional about how I'm marketing my brand across platforms. So, I mean, and I'm not perfect at it. Clearly, you know, sometimes exploitation is more popular than actually having talent, but it doesn't stop me from pushing my talent. Um, and and I know the audience for me will align, and I realized like, I felt like I was competing for my like I guess not the rights, because like I own my rights. You know what I'm saying? It's just people found a clever way to exploit my art without my consent, and grew the popularity from that. And and leaking my work in a way where it's like I can't even access it right now. And and unfortunately, I've had a lot of how do I say this kindly? How about I just don't, shitty people in my life that played into it, and tried to keep me in a space of where anytime I recognized what was going on around me and the truth, and I spoke out about it, it was just automatically like, are you taking your medication? Oh, you're, this person loves you, they would never do anything like that, and literally just like gaslighting me. And anytime I called out the bullshit, even though I might not have had access to said platform, but it's like, whatever, there's a lot of bullshit that I've been having to deal with certain people. And and it's kind of irritating. I was gonna go into a whole like discussion about this in certain relationships, but I'm gonna save that live for another time. This is primarily about getting the work done. But my point in even bringing that up is saying, like, the people who find entertainment in my trauma, and the people who find entertainment in like, oh, we know this about you, but you don't know about it, and you had it coming because you were dating this person, and you did this, and you sold, and this and that, and and I'm just like, okay, fine, you're not my demographic, and that's okay. I know there's people out there for me, and you know I don't want to convince anybody to like me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just gonna be me. Like, I'm gonna be who I am. I'm still gonna do this like personal development and growth journey. Like, initially I was doing it for my so-called loved ones, but now I'm doing it for me, just because I want to be the best version of myself. But then also, like, I know going forward, I'm gonna just keep growing, because, but like, I'm not gonna alter who I am to try to appease people that can never be satisfied. Like, people that bank on me messing up so it can propel their platform, or to further humiliate me, or further try to like defame my character, or whatever the case may be. And I'm not gonna be like phased by that, just because like I know there's people who may go through similar adversities that I've dealt with, whether it be people gaslighting you, people that you felt like you can trust setting you up to fail, people trying to exploit you, people trying to pimp you out, people who, anytime you do something good or something creative, like, don't reassure you or give you any, not that people have to like what you do, but like, say you do something and you feel good about it, and it's good and it's quality, and then the people around you are like, it's all right, like, and try to downplay it, but then try to profit off of it and try to exploit it. But it's like, but when I shared it with you, it wasn't, you were saying it, oh, it's all right. But but now that you're in a position to potentially like gain popularity from it, from exploiting me, then now you're interested in my work. Like, no. And I know there's people who go through that, especially artists in the industry, people at the labels, where it's like, this song is all right, but until it becomes a hit, now they love it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know there's people who understand my situation and the things that I go through. And, and they might feel like, okay, they can't openly say that they support me, or, but it's like, nah, I'm breaking down that narrative, and, the fear mongering around that. Like, no, we're canceling that. Okay. Like, we're canceling that before anybody could try to cancel me. And and I say that for the people who's ever been through anything like that. Like, don't let people try to fear you out of your truth, or make you feel fearful of the things that you're into, or your true opinions and whatnot. And I get that's against the 48 laws of power, because one of the laws is like, not to openly speak about what you truly believe, but just kind of go along with what the masses believe. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going for that. I don't care if that's a power tactic, and people orchestrate fake situations in my life to try to you know coincide with these power laws. Like, fuck that. I'm still going to be true to me, and I'm going to get to power in my own authentic way. And that's no shade to Robert Greene. Again, like, I feel like he's a brilliant writer, and of course it's something to be mindful of. And it's like, I'm aware of those things, but it's like, I'm not playing into people's game. I'm going to stand true to who I am and be authentic as an artist and as a woman, in hopes that that inspires somebody else, and let that become mainstream. Let standing up for yourself and being authentic to who you are become mainstream. And and the people who get it, like, don't let these people like make you feel fearful of what you stand for and what you believe. Because I, again, like, I know there's a handful of people who, relationships that I've built in my life where I've never had issues with people. There's a lot of people that I've worked with and we had great times together and we've never fallen out, and we might not have been like the best of friends, but we were, we always had a good time. There's people who are friends of mine that we've always had a great relationship. We've always had fun times. We used to hang out and travel together, and we never fell out. We just, drifted apart or whatever the case may be. And once I started like waking up to that, I'm like, there's more of those people in my life than the people who I've actually fell out with. It just so happens that the people that I fell out with, I was close with them. But, I realized, like, you got to be careful who you give the privilege of calling a friend, because, friends, true friends that love you, are going to tell you when you falling off and when you slipping. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that it's kind of like leading to the live stream that I was going to get into, which I'm going to save that for another time. But, my point is speaking to specifically the people who've ever been through the experiences of like being gaslit, being in narcissistic relationships, and then made to feel like you're the narcissist, when really you care so much about people, and everything that you do is trying to, like, you literally people please, and, alter who you are just to try to please other people. Like, and then are made out to be like the bad guy, and, and say you made mistakes in life, but like people hang that over your head and never give you a chance to grow, and are banking on the next time that you make a mistake and hoping to catch it so they can broadcast that and try to humiliate you. Like, anybody that's ever been through that, like, the struggle of what that's like. And, and I just want to say that, like, you know I don't care who might have access to whatever of mine. Like, the space that I'm building, the world that I'm building, is a safe space for people who've had those experiences like us. People who've dealt with betrayal in friendships, and then are made out to be like, oh, you're a bad friend because of this orchestrated situation and how you handled it. But nobody calls out the deception and the deceit and lies of the friends around you that even curated the false situation and tried to bait you anyway. But since nobody else is going to call it out, I'm going to call it out, because I know there's other people who go through shit like that. Maybe not to this degree, but again, like, I want this space, not only just for people who go through those emotionally manipulative experiences, but, for the creatives too. Like, I'm really big on, like, I mean, I guess this is kind of like, I guess, the plus side to me showing my behind the scenes of like the working process, because, it could be one thing of me, like, okay, doing a photo shoot and me working on music, but it's like, I mean, and at some point I will get to that and I will show that, when I'm ready. But for now, like, I want to show the business side of things, like designing the business cards, putting the content together that's going to be on the flash drives, picking the pictures, like designing the lyric book, like all of that takes work, and it's something I would naturally just do. But, in me documenting it, I'm like, yo, this is really like, not only is this like labor, like hours of labor, but, it's work. And it's often the work that people don't think about. A lot of these artists, when you buy their merch and their packages and stuff like that, you just think like, oh, these are some really cool pictures. Like, for example, like, I believe there's like this book that, Beyonce put together for, well, not necessarily Beyonce, but her team, and I'm sure she gave her say so, and, picked out what she wanted. But there's this, the tour book for the Renaissance tour, and, just the work to plan all those photo shoots, the person who's taking the pictures behind the scenes while they're, building the sets and this and that, the person who's helping her style the looks, and put out the different outfits, and then also like the extras and the people who are in the photo shoots with her, whether it's like dancers or or someone who's in the ballroom scene, like all of that takes work and time. And then to like capture it into photography and then package it into a book, like that's work. Like that takes work and energy and money and expenses. And although it might be like a cool collectible at the tour, but there was a lot of work and manpower that went into the book alone. And not a lot of people talk about that. Like I seen pictures of it like online a while ago, and that's not even talking about putting the tour together. You know what I mean? So it's like all this work that goes into the art, it takes work. And, a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes. And I know there's a lot of artists who are independent, who are, trying to do their thing. And then maybe there might be other artists out there who are just as passionate about the details like I am. And, who are really into more than just like making the music, but the creative vision behind it, the visuals, the story that's being told, the fashion, like, and I think the important thing, although like I feel like I said before, like it's not like I really didn't want to be even like filming this process. I really just want to do my work. But I'm like, okay, I gotta do my hair and makeup, I gotta put the set together and this and that and make it a whole thing. But like again, like I feel like if there's anybody that's gonna expose my creative process, it should be me. But and not only that, but in because it's like, okay, I could document it, I can look back at this experience and be like, damn, Nerys, look how far you came, look at all this work that you did. Now you can hire people to do this for you. Or or maybe like if I'm doing another type of book in the future and I'm like, okay, how did I do that book again when we did the flash drives the first time? And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I have it documented. But I think the important thing is showing other creatives, like, maybe there's another creative that's trying to figure something like that out. Like, okay, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna put this together? How can I like put a business card together? And I mean, I'm sure you can look on Google and YouTube and all that, but again, if you're looking on YouTube, my channel is a way for you to learn. And the main thing that I really want to do with this work is like hopefully be a channel for someone to learn from, like whether it be my mistakes, but then also the work that I put in as an artist. Like, okay, yeah, we can talk about like my dating past or whatever the case may be, however many years ago, and stuff like that. And I can give you the whole motivational, like, value yourself, put yourself first. Don't just fall into the traps of dating these guys or girls or persons, out of insecurity. Like we can talk about that, and for a later live stream we can do that. But then also I can show like the work that I put in as an artist and as a creative director and as a as someone that's styling and building my sets and stuff like that. Like like people like to replicate my work, but nobody likes to talk about the work that goes into doing this. And and people like to echo the things that I do and make it like a funny thing and echo the mistakes that I've made in my personal life, which really isn't anybody's business. But I think it's up to me to show, okay, let me show you Nerys the artist. Like, okay, yeah, sure, y'all might have had access to my devices and seen me do photo shoots and stuff like that before, and it might have been entertaining for y'all, but it's like, it's work, clearly. And any other creative that does that same work respects that, and would respect it. And, and watching it on a platform that exploits, the work that I put into is hypocritical if you're creative and if you're an artist and using that as a means to echo what I do, but to be a creative and do that, like, okay, a lot of y'all artists, you know, there's a specific artist that I will get into at another live stream because, like I say before, I have no problem calling people out and holding people accountable. But, it's interesting to me to see artists who are currently in battles with labels because they feel exploited or they feel like they have this control over their careers or this control over their artistry and dictating what type of art they can come out with and saying like, oh, this doesn't qualify as a project, so you got to stay trapped in this contract. People who go through those experiences, but you play into the game of like, you know trying to copy what I do and make fun of me and make fun of my situation or my dating past or whatever, but don't respect the privacy of my creative process. that's what kind of like the hypocrisy, because I'm like, you're an artist. As an artist that values privacy and values the passion that it takes to put into their art, you should understand why I'm passionate about my art and passionate about why I value my privacy and why I feel the need to have to lock my space and try to protect my work. Because other artists, like, Summer Walker with the whole flash drive thing, like, and how she was going everywhere with them flash drives. Like, I mean, it was a marketing thing and it was cool, but it's like, as artists, you really do got to keep your shit on you sometimes, because you never know who you're collaborating with. And, and sometimes people might leak your stuff, and that's your work. You put time, especially if you're a writer and you write your music and then you're recording the vocals and you're doing all this and laying down the harmonies and all of that. Like, that takes work. And so any creative that's ever been through an experience where they might have been exploited, you know I just challenge you to really think twice about what you consider to be funny about somebody else being exploited. But for the other creatives who get it and who understand and who slowly but surely have been like speaking out in certain ways, thank you. I appreciate that. I've seen it in subtle ways. But it is what it is. But anyway, my whole point in saying this was like, hopefully in me documenting this experience and doing the tedious work of designing a business card and putting together a QR code with my social media links and stuff like that, like that'll show somebody else like, okay, how to do this. Because there might be people who don't know how to put together a QR code. At one point, I didn't know. A few months ago, I didn't know how to put together a QR code, but I figured it out. And not only that, but like I figured out a way to do it where it has like a visual aesthetic and it's not just like a black and white QR code and it just goes to a random link. Like, like it's a whole experience. Like I showed y'all before with as I was making it last night, where it was like my logo coming up first as the page is loading, and then you see the document, the colors of the screen coincide with the colors of the document. And I'm intentional about stuff like that just because like I want there to be a certain energy and a cohesive visual aesthetic when it comes to like the stuff specifically for Divine EP until we can get to a space where we can work on new projects. But yeah, but with that said, yeah, I just wanted to say that, um, and also like I wanted to talk about like the creatives out there who are my people. Thank you. I wanted to talk about like the people who've been through the same things that I've been through, the narcissistic, mentally abusive, manipulative circumstances and dealing with betrayal from people that you thought were friends, but really was just trying to like play in your face and, elevate their own situation. And not because they genuinely care about you. um People who've been through that, like like this is a space for you to feel safe and feel seen and understood. And then also again to like to the black girls out there, the young black girls who are figuring out like just it doesn't you don't even have to be like an artist, but just in general, just like figuring out like who you are and discovering, learning how to get in that journey of know thyself. Like, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? And maybe you might be around people who don't inspire that, or people who don't, pull out the best in you, and you feel alone in your journey. You feel like, okay, who nobody gets me. Like, I just feel like this quirky, awkward girl, and like I know I have something in me, but I just don't know like what my outlet is. I don't know, how to express it, or I don't know, like, even if I do know how to express it, like I feel like when I do express it, people say I'm weird, or people say like, oh, why are you into that? Like, why not be into this? Why not be into the thing that everybody else does? Why do you do your hair like that? Why don't you have baby hairs like everybody else? And then there's no shade to the baby hair girls, because apparently there's a baby picture of me fresh out the womb with baby hair. So I'm pretty sure y'all was biting that off of me too at some point. But 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 it's for the girls out there like that's been on that journey, and I know what that feels like because I've been there, and even in me showing this like process of me working, like I'm really proud of like how I've been designing stuff, just because I feel like slowly but surely I'm working my way to being the woman that I've always wanted to be as a kid. And I know some other people might have judgments on who that woman is, and I really don't care. But I know who I am. I know my heart. I know my talent. I know my ambition, and I know like I'm more than how people like to describe me. But it took me a while to get there, and it took me a while to have this confidence and this, being assured, being sure of myself and knowing who I am, and even expressing myself as an artist and as a creative. Like, it's taken me a while to get to this point. But I know, despite the adversity that I faced, I know, the most important thing for me is being a woman that, you know like 5-year-old Nerese would be proud of. Like 6 or 9-year-old Nerese would be proud of. And I do this for her, and that's why I'm like, along with my mom. Like, my mom is everything for me, but it's like that's really what keeps me going, and that's really what keeps me to a place where it's like, I don't give a fuck what the fuck y'all talking about. Y'all are not little Nerese. I will burn down this whole fucking planet for her, for that little girl, because she had big dreams. And the thing is, she had big dreams out of consideration for this planet. You know what I'm saying? And not that I would literally want to burn down this planet, but I'm just saying, like, I don't give a fuck what you throw my way, or what you try to say about me, or what put in my, like, whatever. Like, sure, people might get their shit off where, they might put me in a compromising situation, and I have to do something that I'm not really necessarily proud of, but I felt like my back was against the wall. And I'm constantly in, not constantly, but I had been in circumstances like that. We'll speak to that in the past tense, because I know most adversities are temporary, especially the people in your life who cause them are temporary. um and whatever, people might judge me for whatever situation, but you know can't even survive it if it were them. You know what I mean? So, if anybody ever feels like that, and you feel like your back's against the wall, and like, don't beat yourself up. Like, there's people who are going to shame you, say, oh, you shouldn't have did this, oh my gosh, she did that, and well, why would she do something like that? And then, it's another opportunity for people to try to make fun of you, and try to like pull you down and hold you back. But sometimes people don't understand what you've gone through, and what you've been through, and why you felt like you had to make certain decisions that you did. But just like, stay the course, and believe in yourself, and believe that things are working out for you. And as long as you learning, and you're growing, and you're getting better, like, stay focused on that. And just know that a lot of people are just distractions. Like, when people see your work ethic and see how great you are, and they might not have any talent to equate to that. They might use manipulation tactics, because that's what they got going for them. They might use narcissistically abusive, tactics, because that's their strength. That's what they're good at, you know. And just like, stay the course and trust the process, and know that there's going to be a space and time where, like, things are going to work out, and the right people are going to be around you. And have standards for yourself, and believe in yourself, but also believe that you're worth better than whatever your current circumstances. Like, if you're struggling, or your family's struggling, or whatever the case may be, like, know that I have something within me that I know can create more than this, that can build more than what's being thrown my way. And I know I have more to offer this world, and I know the world has more for me. I know the world has more to offer me, with love, with integrity, with respect, with abundance, with, you know, with positive people, with people who respect my passion, people who, see the vision, they trust my leadership, they trust my vision, people who get it, an audience that appreciates what I give, so just keep that in mind. With that said, I am going to get back into working on the QR code. Okay, so that was I said a lot of I said a lot of things of kind of what I was leading into. So I was going back and forth between whether I wanted to pay for the what do you call it? Um, hmm, interesting. Um, okay, so yeah, so all right, I was going back and forth between how I was going to do this whole QR code thing, right? And I was like, look, if I got to pay for it, I'm going just going to pay for it, but I got to set it up in a way where it benefits me, right? And so how I was going to do that, and me saying this, and me giving game for the creatives out there. I say this because it's something that I've been doing for another business of mine. Some of y'all might have seen it online, maybe not. I don't know. But essentially, like, it's important just to personally build credit for yourself, which is something that I've been doing for the past few years now. And I'm not saying my credit score is amazing, but it's a lot better than what it was 3 years ago. A lot better. So, from the years of experience of me building credit for my personal credit, and then I think for the past few months, I've been building credit for another business venture that I plan to do. I know I was like, okay, I know I have to do the same model for Neomac Entertainment because I've had the LLC for Neomac Entertainment for since 2020 when I came out with the Divine EP, but I didn't think about like business credit. Like I knew that was a thing and I knew that was something that I was going to have to like eventually get to down the line, but it wasn't a concern for me just because like I didn't really understand the concept of needing credit for a business, right? But I knew to have like different business bank accounts so like I can separate my purchases eventually when I do taxes, but because I wasn't receiving any profits at that time, I didn't really feel the need to do that. And I was like, okay, do I need to file for taxes because I didn't get any profits yet? So whatever. But I was trying to like think about all of those things and think ahead, like, okay, like accounting for your business and like keeping tracks of your expenses. And I feel like the easiest way to do that was with separate bank accounts, right? And so what I did with another business was I um I had a business bank account and then I also had a business credit card. And so what I would do is that like the reoccurring expenses that would come out monthly, I would put that on the credit card. Now, mind you, I'm not saying to do this. This is something that I did. If you feel like you're responsible enough to do this, I am not a financial advisor. This is just my own experience. So I'm just going to say that disclaimer. So you can't say, Nerese told me to do this and it didn't work and my credit looked crazy. Like, no, you're not going to do that. Okay. People already blame me for enough shit that ain't got nothing to do with me. So, you know, just so we're clear. But what I did was because I knew I was responsible enough to, set this up right. So I put the reoccurring expenses on the credit card. And so I did a total of like how much would be coming out this card on a monthly basis based on like certain expenses, like the domain for the website. Um, you know, what else is on there? It's like, yeah, the domain for the website itself, or something like, let's just say that, right? So say that's the only expense that you have to worry about. And so I will put that on the credit card. And so I know monthly that's going to come out the credit card, right? And then I set up my business bank account to have a certain amount in there. So maybe I put like $400 in there, that I saved up from working full time. And so I'm like, okay, let me, or what I would do is to add up how many months, like say maybe like 6 months of expenses that will be coming out the credit card. And then like say if you have $10 coming out a month, right? So for 6 months, you should expect like $60 to come out the credit card. Um, and then what I would do is have the business bank account and then have like maybe like $100 in there. And then I would set up an automatic payment. So whenever it was due for me to pay on the credit card, like say if it was due on the 14th, I would have an automatic payment set up with the bank account to pay towards the credit card, like maybe like a week beforehand, right? And then always pay a little bit more than the minimum But in the key is like, okay, so I'm not an expert on credit, right? But I know with personal credit, there's this thing called utilization, where say if you get a credit line for $1,000, you should only use about 30%, like anywhere between 15 to 30% out of that thousand when it comes to personal credit. And so if you extend past that, then it reflects negatively on your credit report. So you want to stay within that utilization period. So say if you got a credit line for 1,000, you want to make sure that you don't spend more than $300, right? So stay anywhere less than that on a monthly basis. But in terms of business credit, I believe they're not like strict like that. But for me personally, like I just try to not like overspend in that way. Every now and then, like I have certain expenses or certain things where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put this on a credit card, but I know I'm gonna pay it off. And I know I have my automatic thing set up. And then the key to that is like, knowing when you're getting close to that 6 month mark, putting money in there so it doesn't run out. You know what I'm saying? So like don't forget that it's automated. You know what I mean? So like, okay, so again, like say you got the $10 coming out the credit card every month because of your domain costs, right? And then you have $100 in your business bank account, and it's set up to automatically pay off your credit card for the next 6 months. But the point is to have more in there than the expenses that you're allotting for 6 months, right? So say 6 months of the domain is going to be like $60. So making sure that you put in $100. So say for whatever reason, if you get to the 6 month mark and life happens and you might forget, you still got enough cushion money in there to cover the next month. But be mindful, like, okay, it's creeping up on that 6 months. So let me make sure I put some more money in there. But I know there's enough in there so I'm not being overdrawn, right? So I hope that makes sense. It should make sense. But so that's what I was doing with another, and I was like, doing this whole thing of like practicing building the credit for it. Just because like I had already, been building credit on my own personal line and it's been going up. So I'm like, okay, maybe if I do the same thing with a business, but this time let me try out the automated aspect of it. So having like automatic payments being made on there. And then now, so I'm like, okay, I wasn't doing that for Neomac Entertainment. I don't know why I should have did it for Neomac Entertainment when I thought of it, but I was like, okay, let me just test this out, see how it goes. And I had been pretty consistent with it. I think the only hiccup that I had was like, because I wasn't actively using the business bank account. I think like the credit card canceled at one point, which I don't know why it wasn't expired, but I think because I wasn't using it a lot, like it was only being used for the automatic payments. So I just had to like get on top of that and then check but I feel like that's specific to the bank, whichever bank you decide to use. But because I think there's like certain banks where it's like you have to have a certain amount of transactions per month or whatever the case may be. But in that case, I was like, okay, let me check this bank account, let me get the new card or whatever. But the banking info is the same, like your bank number and your routing and all of that. So as long as that's linked, then it should still be making the payments. But you just want to be on top of stuff like that. So with that said, because I have the experience of doing that with another business that I'm like, slowly but surely gonna get to, but I've just been like using time to, you know, pay the bills on that and then like build my credit for that. So I know as soon as I'm like ready to make certain moves with that, like I know I should be able to have access to more of a credit line just because I've been spending time building that credit. And I know there's a whole thing with business credit because you got like different tiers of things. Like you have to get lender credit, cash credit. And then I think it's like one more thing. And I'm still like learning all of that. And again, I'm not a financial expert. I'm just speaking from my own experience and what I know. Um, and I know that maybe this information could be valuable and helpful to somebody else, right? So basically, I even mentioned this because I really didn't want to talk too much about finances on here, but I mentioned this because you know I was thinking about the whole like QR code last night, and I'm like, I really don't want to have to pay for this, but I like the design. I don't want to have to keep going website to website to see if I could do a free version. Like I see most of the websites will charge you a little extra just off of you using a PDF, and I'm not reworking how I'm doing the links. Like the PDF, it works best for me. I designed the PDF. The links on the PDF work to go to my social media and my music streaming platforms and stuff like that. So that's just how I'm going to do the QR code until like a better option comes up or a better idea comes up. Um, so with that said, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and just, you know, pay for the QR code. And so in that, I was like, all right, well, maybe this is kind of like pushing me into doing that whole setup for Neomac Entertainment, because I didn't do that when I mean, I had the idea to do it months ago, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because like, you know, I think it's better to like, if you're trying a new system, try it with one thing first so you can like solely focus on that and see what works and see, you know, if a problem arises and stuff like that. So then by the time, if you want to do that for another thing, you have the experience. You know, like, okay, if I set this up like this, it's probably better if I set this up first and then do this, or, you know, or have, you know, I got to wait till I save up the money before I can do that over here. You know what I mean? So like, I'm glad that I didn't do it both at the same time, even though like that time would have helped build my credit. But like, I think I'd rather put the time in learning the experience first before building the, you know, just for the sake of like, okay, I gotta hurry up and build this credit. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, if anything, like I could have been did that once I started the business in 2020, but the thing is, I didn't know anything about that, and I wasn't responsible enough then to set up like an automatic payment thing and know that I was going to be consistent like I am today. Like I had to go through certain financial struggles and like lessons and disciplines in the last like year or two, before me even implementing that. So it's like, you know, there's certain things that I needed to learn and certain habits and disciplines that I needed to instill within myself financially before I could even make a move like that with Neomac Entertainment. And Neomac Entertainment is my baby. Like it's my music, you know, label, and you know, and that's the most important thing for me. And it's like I might not get everything right, but like I'd rather my other business, because it's not really a passion project, the other one that I'm working on. But I do want to like try something new and venture into that. Hold on. Um, all right. You know, it might not necessarily be a passion project, but it's um it's a good guinea pig for me to like learn and, you know, iron out the kinks on that. And then and eventually, you know, once I learn that lesson, then implement that into Neomac Entertainment. So with that said, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, is, you know, get the QR code and all of that stuff and put it on the credit card, and then like set up like an automatic payment situation, just because like I feel like it's important for me to keep this QR code. Like I designed it and everything, and I really don't want to have to like make a, and I feel like even if I found another site where I can do like a more affordable version, like I like the design that I did. I don't want to have to sit up here and try to make 20 different designs just so I can like for the price, like, you know, whatever. I'll just pay the $10 and it is what it is, and hopefully it will serve me in the future when I do, you know, start giving out these business cards. So, and you know, and that can be an experiment in itself. Like, okay, I'll get the business cards and let's see if it's effective for me to actually have the business card. You know what I'm saying? And that can be a test for like maybe like a month or two or something like that. But I think it was a good challenge that rose up for me to be like, okay, Nerys, now it's time for you to do that whole like financial setup for Neomac Entertainment and start, you know, doing that in a way where you're not just paying expenses, but your expenses is being paid towards something that's going to build your business credit. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna have to have bills regardless, right? You know what I'm saying? And there's certain people that know that play where it's like, okay, putting your bills on a credit card and then having your credit card being paid off automatically. So the bills, you was going to have to pay the bills anyway. So might as well have your bills be paid on something that's going to increase your credit. You know, and some people do that in their own personal credit and stuff like that too. Like some people put like their gas and electric and all that stuff on their credit card bill, because it's like you're gonna have to pay that gas and electric anyway. Might as well put that on your credit card and build your credit at the same time as you're going to use these expenses for your livelihood anyway. But I wouldn't recommend that for everybody. I would recommend that for people who know they're disciplined enough to pay their bills on time and know that, you know, that's a focus for you. Like your focus is building your credit, you know. And then also there was another point that I wanted to say with that. Oh yeah, okay. So, and what got me to that space, shout out to a mentor that I had years ago. I'm not gonna say her name just to respect her privacy. But there was this time she gave me this book called The Richest Man in Babylon, I believe. What's his name? By George. I don't have the name. Give me a second. Okay. It's by George S. Clason. Because I knew the first name. I just didn't know the full name. But yeah, so The Richest Man in Babylon. I She gave me this book years ago when I was a kid, and I didn't finish reading the book, but I read the like first chapter or so. And one of the lessons that stuck with me for years is always saving 10% of anything that you make, at least not like at least 10%. So if you can save more than do that, which is something that I would do, depending on like certain jobs when I know I was getting paid like full time. And even when I was working part time, it was harder for me to do it then. But I know when I got full time gigs when I was like in management, I had it set up automatically. Like I would have two different bank accounts, and I set it up so where my check would be where, like, say a certain percentage or a certain amount would go into this other account, and then the rest would go into like my main spending where I would like buy food and groceries and pay for my bills or whatever. But I know that savings account, I would let it stack up there and not touch it. But um I lost possession. Well, I didn't lose possession. I let someone borrow the book, and I didn't get it back at that point. And it was fine. It was whatever. But my mentor kind of went in on me at that time. She was like, I did not give you this book for you to just be giving out to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I bought this book for you because it's important. And I get you were trying to be considerate of somebody else, but like that's not what I bought this book for. I bought this book for you to learn. And that was the first time she ever like got upset with me before. You know what I'm saying? Because I was in like, I think I was either in like, I, I think I was in high school. I was like either like a sophomore when I met her, and I met her through Girl Scouts because they nominated me to like write this introduction speech for her because she was being inducted as like a woman in business and stuff like that. And so like I had to like get to know her to be able to write the speech on her. I wonder if I still have that. But and and me talking to her, like I had so much in common with her, like so much about like our upbringing and just like her having an older brother like I did at the time. And just like her situation where her mom was very similar to my situation with my mom with like mental illness, and just like being petite black women who were like ambitious, and I always wanted to be in business. So like so much of like what she was doing in her life was what I wanted to do. And so like she would like we would she would take me to like lunches and stuff like that, and would just kind of like, I don't know, she was a mentor to me. And yeah, and so she got me this book years ago, not this particular book, but and I always said, all right, I'm going to replace that book, and it wasn't until last year, I know, so many years later, and I had always heard about it, and I know people talked about it, and I was like, okay, I know this is a book that I need to get again and read. So last summer I bought this book. I actually called out of work to get this book because, and I don't regret it, because, and I know somehow people found out about it or whatever. But yeah, like I was having a rough time at work at this time, and I was just like, this I'm really trying to like be a stand-up person. I'm really trying to, work hard and be at this job and this and that, but these people are trying me, and I was just like, fuck it. I'm not coming in today. You know what I'm saying? And so I ended up, and I was on my way to work, but I was just like, man, fuck it. It was one of those days. It was one of those days where I was just like, fuck this shit. But and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do that, then I need to be doing something productive. Like if I'm not gonna be earning money today, then I need to be doing something that's you know, worth me not being at work earning money right now. And so I went to Barnes and Noble and I got this book and I was like, you know what? I said I was going to replace this book. I said I was going to finish this book, so let me buy it. So I got The Richest Man in Babylon, which is an easy read. You know what I'm saying? It's an easy read. It's not hard. There's a lot of good, really good life lessons in it. I think I finished it in like a month. You know what I'm saying? Which I mean, is that some people that might be a long time for them. Or some people could finish books in a week, whatever. But I was doing this in between like working and what else was going on at that time? I think I was trying to get into like creative stuff at this point. But you know, with me reading this book was so like fundamentally like life changing for me, because even the first chapter was life changing, because that always stuck with me. Like, and that me reading that chapter years ago as a kid, like that habit stuck with me. When I knew I was getting a good lump sum of money, I would always save at least, I would save more than 10%. Like I know my thing was like, okay, I know it says at least 10%, but I'm gonna do 20%. If I'm getting like, depending on how much money, like, all right, if I'm getting like $1,000, shit, let me save like 500. You know what I'm saying? Because if I was working a part-time job where I was getting checks for like $200, and then like somehow some way I get like a promotion or a lump sum of money where I'm getting a large sum of money, I'm like, I survived off of less, so I'm just gonna act like I have less than what I'm looking at right now, and I'm gonna save a majority of this, and then and of course I'm gonna pay off the things that I need to pay off, and maybe get some like new clothes or stuff like that or whatever. But and I'm like, I know if I've been surviving off of less than this, then I'm gonna try my best to not blow this money. You know what I'm saying? And I think I've always been good about that through the years. My only thing is that one of the key things is like saving 10% up and stacking your coins essentially, and then using that money to invest in something that's going to get you more money. And that mentality always stuck with me. But I think through the years when I've done that, I invested in things that didn't have an immediate return on you know ROI, you know return on investment. It wasn't an immediate return in investment. And and there's times where I had money saved up and I didn't blow it, but I like, all right, you know what? Like, okay, maybe like 2 years ago when I got, the different costumes and everything, like I spent at least like $1,000 on costumes and accessories and different pieces for the Divine short film that I wanted to do. And I ended up not doing it. And I was upset because I'm like, damn, I spent all this money on these fucking costumes. Like I could have saved that money. I could have reinvested that somewhere else. But then I was thinking like, okay, when you're an artist, spending money on your art is an investment. Even if you don't see the immediate return, but if you have a vision, if you have like a particular story that you want to tell, even if you might not be able to get off the story that you initially wanted to do, but it's like it was a benefit for me because even though I didn't get to do the film that I wanted, when I had other creative ideas like doing the like some of the covers that I did on YouTube with the Hiatus Coyote Red Room and even like the Scissor Good Days, I was able to put those looks together because I had those extra pieces that I hadn't used yet. And I did it in a way where I didn't do it how I initially put the outfits together, because I had specific wardrobe outfits that I wanted for particular songs for Divine. But I was like, you know what? Let me just take the accessories from this look and put it together with the gloves from this look, and then and maybe even just wear a skirt that's in my closet that I wear every day, and then and put like the metallic bralette on, and then try to put a look together. And so because I had what's the word? A stock, I guess, of like I had what's the word? Like, I guess, like, because I had the inventory, because I had the inventory of costumes that I didn't use, I was able to like rework the accessories that I got to make the creative projects that I did through the years, through the like the last 2 years. And like, and even though sometimes it could be frustrating because it's like, okay, I know I put so much time and energy into recording those videos, filming it, and to this day I know it's only on my YouTube channel like 100 views on there, but I know a hell of a lot more than 100 people seen me in this look and even replicated this look. you know I know to trust the process, because it's like, okay, if people are biting my look, then that says something for my taste and style, and my ability to style myself. And it's like, okay, I know that's a skill that I have, and maybe that's something that I can market, in some way. And then not only that, but like in me doing these projects, even though they might just be cover videos or cover songs, like it's helping me hone my editing skills. I'm honing my creative direction skills. I'm building a portfolio without even realizing that I'm building a portfolio. And then, and up until today, when I'm working on these flash drives for the past week, I'm really looking at these, looking at the work that goes into it. And I'm like, okay, look at all these photo shoots that you did. Look at all these looks that you put together. Look at your ability to design, a lyric book. That wasn't even the initial plan, but I was like, all right, fuck it. That's a vibe. And these were skills that I built over the years, even though like I put that $1,000 into it was more than 1,000. It was like 1,000, like maybe like 200 or something like that. But put $1,000 into these costumes that I didn't even get to wear for the film that I wanted to do. But I wasn't ready to do that film at that time. But I was able to do smaller projects through the years that's built my skills to where they are now, where I feel confident as a creative director. I feel confident doing visual projects and directing myself and filming myself and editing myself. And they might not be perfect, they might not be the best quality, but I know it's a vibe. Like I feel confident in my work, and I know like I can put together a solid portfolio of the things that I've built and did on my own. Like I feel like my best visual projects are when I had to figure the shit out and do it myself, you know? And if anything, like I know at some point it can inspire somebody else. Like there might be another artist out there thinking like, damn, like everybody keeps telling me no, people not believing in me. And and you might just be in a space where you gotta believe in yourself and you gotta put it together yourself. And it's like you've heard so many no's, but it's like you have this vision, you have this creative element inside of you that you want to put out there, but you feel like don't nobody believe in it. And it's like in that case, you just gotta believe in it yourself and do it, regardless. And even if it's shitty, like keep doing it until it's dope, and eventually you'll get to a point where it's like, I do this, like I really do this, and you can't tell me shit not ill. And it's like, no, I don't got the fanciest camera. I got an old ass T3i Canon from hella years ago, still using that camera, but it works for me, and eventually like when I have the funds to upgrade, I'll do that. But like just like the things that I've learned over the years in terms of like managing my money and really investing in myself, like that was ultimately how I got into that, because I was talking about Richest Man in Babylon. Okay, so again, like although it might not have been a direct return on investment yet, I feel like it was a investment that was worth spending for me, because of my expression as an artist, how I like to express myself through fashion. And I feel like that adds to the visual element, and how I like to express myself, visually and sonically. And and now in putting flash drives together, you know some of those pieces, the money that I spent on, and using the designs to make the merch, to putting the different looks together, the visual project that's going to be released later on. What I'm saying? Like, had I not put that money, like, okay, the look for the business card, from the Divine live shoot, that was one of the dresses that I bought for a different, I think I feel like that dress might have been for Divine, actually, but I had a completely different idea of the story that I wanted to tell with that dress, and I would have styled it completely different. But I was like, you know what? I have this dress. That dress alone cost like I think that might have been one of the most expensive pieces that I got. I think it might have been like $200 or something like that at the time. I don't remember. I think maybe it might have been a little less than that. I got to double check. But either way, like I was really like I was like, okay, this thing has been sitting in my closet. I got to use this for something. And so I was just going to use it for the live video, but I was like, you know what? I love this look so much. I want to document it in a more artistic way. And then it stumbled into me making the music video. And with that, I was like, okay, like I know it wasn't a waste of money. Like I'm glad I had it to even be able to use and make a look out of it. Even though it wasn't the initial plan that I had. So that was a case of like trusting the process. And even though like you make an investment that isn't an initial return on an investment, when it's something like art, and it's something that requires you to believe in yourself when you have nothing else to lean on and nobody else affirming you or validating you, like it's not a waste. It's not a waste of money. It's, sometimes you need to go through those situations where you have to learn before you can really use the things that's around you, because you needed to grow as an artist, or you needed to grow with your finances, or you needed to grow in terms of maturity before you can handle the creative aspect of what you're really trying to do. So yeah, but I said that to say, because even with the one chapter that I read, that was my initial point in me even mentioning that whole creative thing. So like, although it wasn't an immediate return on investment, it was from that mentality of saving your money, and using, if you're going to use your savings, use it in a way that might like bring income back to you. And so although like I've done that and failed, with certain businesses or certain ventures with like multi-level marketing businesses. And I don't shit on those businesses. I don't shit on those businesses, and I don't to this day, because I know there's people who have been successful in those spaces, and and it works for some people and it works for others. I just didn't have the hustle for it. But I enjoyed being around the people and being at the events and stuff like that. Like I enjoyed the motivation of it, but I wasn't a hustler then yet. You know what I mean? But like, but I've tried it, I invested in it, and it didn't work for me. But it was still that mentality of like, okay, if I'm going to use my savings, let me use it in something that I can invest in. And even though it was a failed experience, it was still that mentality from what I learned in this book like years ago as a kid. And so last year, um I finally finished this book, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, I know if the little bit of gems that I got from that first chapter, if I read this whole book, there's going to be so much more for me. And literally after reading this book, it changed my whole like way of thinking when it came to finances. And and it made me so much more disciplined. And I was already like paying off my credit card bill. I had like one little credit card bill that wasn't really too expensive, and I knew not to go over the utilization. But I felt like at this point I was like, okay, I know I'm in this space working at this part-time job because there's a lesson that I need to be learning here, aside from like working with different people and like humbling myself, but also like financially. And I know there was times where I was working like, and I would only get checks for like $100, maybe $200. Sometimes, it was a struggle at that time. But I was like, it's not about the amount of money, but it's about instilling the habit to save, regardless of how much money you're making. So even if you work in a job where your paycheck is $10, you need to find a way to instill the habit to save at least 10%. So $2, I think $2 out of 10 is 10%, right? No, 20. $1, sorry. Mental math, forgive me. So you need to save $1 out of that $10. But the point is instilling the habit. So, and it might take a little longer for you to save that money, but the point is the habit. So when God blesses you with a large sum of money, you know what to do with it. You already have that discipline and that habit instilled in you, because you hear countless stories of people who get these large sum of monies and don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to invest in. They don't know how to save their money. They're like, oh, I'm about to buy a house for me. I'm about to buy a house for my mama. I'm about to buy a house for my homeboy. You know what I'm saying? You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. And then next thing you know, you ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? And, and I know I'm like, okay, I've heard those horror stories. And I know I'm in a space right now where I'm working part-time and I'm not making the money that I know I need to make to get to the next level. So it's like, okay, what do I need to learn here? And so from that point, after I finished this book, I was like, look, what I need to do is instill the habit to save. So it don't matter what my check look like. If my check is only $100, then I need to save $10 or maybe a little bit more than that. You know, if my whatever my, it don't matter how much money I'm making right now. I need to at least be saving more, like more than 10%. Period. And the point is instilling the habit. So once I finished reading this, so even though I called out of work that day, my bad. You know, but it was valuable though. Like the amount of money that I lost not working was worth it because of the knowledge that I got from reading this book. And books that actually matter. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand like, tactics and power plays and all of that. Like I understand that's important to know in certain spaces and corporate spaces. But things that I actually feel like will benefit people is reading a book like this. The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. Like, I hope I said his name right. This is something that's actually valuable. Um, and and it was worth me not going into work that day because what I learned here allowed me to save, to build the habit of saving money. And my goal at that point was like, okay, I think I had saved up to like maybe like I don't know, maybe like I think I might have gotten close to $1,000 at one point in life. Working at like when I was in management at Pandora years ago. Um, but I was like, okay, my goal is to get like to maybe like $500 in savings or whatever. And then I got another job. I got a full-time job where I was getting paid a lot more and I was getting benefits. But the thing was, had I not instilled those habits from reading this book while I was working that part-time job, I would have fumbled the money that I made at the full-time job. But I went into that full-time job knowing exactly how I was planning my money. And so it gave me more wiggle room to do more things like, okay, I could donate a certain percentage out of my check every time I get paid. I'll pay my credit card bill. I'll make sure I pay like, certain expenses and stuff like that. I can get my groceries. I can I'll definitely save my money. I was, that habit was instilled, but I'm like, okay, now I have a little bit more money so I can donate more. Even though I can't do as much community service as I want to do, but I can maybe at least donate like maybe 10%, maybe 20% here and there. Like, the different various like, um people who I knew like were doing something. Like there was a lady who was building a church, or she started her own church, and she mentioned that to me, and so I was like, okay, and I seen her post at one point that they were taking donations. So I was like, all right, let me whenever I get my next check, then let me try to put a little something to that. And then like and then different organizations that supported different causes like autism, specifically within the African American community, because someone who I used to be close to, her son had autism. And so like even though we weren't speaking, but it was her birthday, and my way of, I mean, I never really shared this with anybody, but it was just something that I was able to do at that time, which is the point of me then saying this. But even though we weren't friends at this time, like it was her birthday, and my way of celebrating her and honoring her and her son was me donating to an organization that supported autism within the Black community, specifically Black children. And the thing is, that's stuff that I've always wanted to do. And I only say this because like that like stuff like that matters to me. And I was in a position where I could do that, and I've always wanted to be in that position. And sometimes like people, when you want prosperity for yourself, and a lot of the mistakes that I made, even with the Root Supply, like I'm not proud of how I started that business. But and at that point I was in a space where I was desperate for finances. But it's like I wouldn't I'm not money hungry because it's like I want to be the richest person in the world. Like, I don't say like, oh, I want to be a billionaire because I just want to be richer than people. Like, for me, like, it really matters to give back to people and give back to the community and back to causes that I know would need support and need help. And my thing is like, in order for me to get to a position to do that, where I'm the position that I'm in right now, I need to prove to myself that I'm disciplined to be able to like handle my own expenses and then be able to manage a certain percentage where I can like invest in myself, like invest in my knowledge, like paying to go to a Earn Your Leisure event, when I was heavily watching their content. And like a Market Monday event. And I'm like, okay, this is something that I watch. I know this is beneficial to me. I can learn something while I'm here. So let me invest in going to that event, but I had the budgeting discipline to do that, and that's another way of investing in yourself, investing in your knowledge. Like me calling out of work that day and spending $10 to get this book, but it was probably the smartest $10 that I spent that summer because it gave me the skills to navigate handling my finances when I got that job. This turned into a completely different live stream that I was expecting. This was not even part of the plan, but whatever, here we are. But and so I know, like, okay, and I still have more lessons to learn. I still have more financial lessons to learn. Like I recently this summer learned about saving accounts with a high yield saving percentage, right? And so it's basically kind of like how you put your savings account in the bank, like Bank of America or whatever, and they got like a 0.04% of interest, excuse me, but it doesn't equate to how fast inflation goes up. So like, yeah, sure, you might save your money in those bank accounts and like, but you might not see anything grow from that till like years from now. um Hold on, I don't know, my screen timed out for a second. So yeah, but high yield savings accounts, depending on certain ones, there's different ones that vary where the percentage could be anywhere from like 3.5. Lately, they've been like a lot of them have been in like the fours, like 4.5. And then some of them go up to like 5%. Whereas like I think, is it like annual? I'm actually not 100% sure. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. But I'm just saying, like, just learning different things to be smarter about your money, and things that I learned, and so like, for me, it was last year, it was instilling the habit of saving and being smarter about how I navigate my finances. And then, this year it was like, okay, how can I invest in myself and how can I make smarter investments? Because I had the mindset to like save to invest, but I wasn't making the smartest investments back in the day. Sorry, y'all. um and so for me now, it's like, okay, looking into things like high yield savings account, I didn't even know things like that existed. You know what I'm saying? But I learned about it when it was right for me to learn. So I was like, okay, let me be able to, start, you know allotting some finances into a high yield savings account, and leaving it alone. You know what I mean? And so like, I share all this to say, these are things that I've learned through the years. These are habits that I've instilled through the years. And again, I'm not perfect with finances. I am, still learning, and there's a lot for me to learn, like, about like trusts and stuff like that. Like I'm still researching into that, well, trying to, you know, but that's a whole nother thing. But, and I usually like, I'm more private about stuff like this, but I feel like it's something that could be of value to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, especially creatives out there, like, and if you're independent and you're doing it on your own and you're starting your own business or whatever, like, there's ways that, and just people in general, like, and especially if you're young, like, it's important to be smart about your finances, and I'm like, look, I don't got it all figured out, but I do think it says something for myself that I've been unemployed since May, and I'm not completely broke. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not broke at all, because I'll never be broke another day in my life. One of my affirmations that I got from Coach Stormy. I'm never gonna be broke another day in my life. But I think it says something for myself. Now, granted, like, gratefully, like, I do live in a situation where I don't have to worry about like some bills that a lot of other people have to worry about. But I was, even throughout this whole time, I've been on top of paying my credit card bills on time. And even with the other business that I've been doing, like making payments on that to build that credit, like even in the midst of me being unemployed, I was still on top of making sure the payments that I needed to pay, where I'm making, the payments towards my credit, I made sure that I didn't get behind. And now I know like student loans is about to be a thing again. um so like at some point I do have to like get that together. But and I just say this to say, like, I don't know it all, I'm not no expert, but I'm just saying, like, from the mistakes that I've made through the years and what I have learned, that I do know a little something, and maybe it could be beneficial to somebody, especially a creative, especially someone that is going through the process of like investing in themselves, and like trying to figure out if the investment is worth making or whatever. So I hope that was something of value to whoever has heard that. I hope that inspired someone to get this book. Okay. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. And thank you to my mentor for suggesting this book to me years ago, even though like it took me damn near like 10 years for me to get a new one and actually finish the whole book. But even from the little bit that I read at that time, it stuck with me. It was a habit that stuck with me. And I wasn't perfect at it, but I knew when I was, working like 20 jobs at the same time, or I was, working a full-time situation, I knew I was like, all right, you know what? It was just innate. It was just already like in my mind to be like, all right, a certain percentage I'm going to stash over here. That's just what we doing, and it's not even a thought. And the only reason why I don't have that money to chauffeur, today, was from back then, was because like I invested it. I had the intentions to invest it, and I did, but it just wasn't the smartest investment. And those were the mistakes that I needed to make. But I still had the mentality to be like, okay, save your money. If you're going to use your spending, if you're going to use your savings, invest it into something. And then also, of course, like have emergency savings and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother thing. um I'm like, bro, I just what's the name of this? Okay. So you know what, this is just going to be its own live, um and then I'm going to start another one about what's the name, talking about I'm actually doing the work that I came on here to do. So yeah, I'm going to end this live and start a new one. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back.